20 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. We are continuing with that conversation on self-love and self-determination, and we are wrapping up our inspirational series, Rewiring Your Mind for Success. Now, in a rapidly changing world where uncertainty has become our daily reality, we need more than just skills. We need psychological readiness. We have spoken about perfectionism, growing in uncertainty, first generation opportunities, and social pressures. Tonight, we are joined once again by Juliane Hoss, who is a therapist, and Willem Gous, who is an entrepreneurial thinking expert. Two phenomenal thinkers and change makers, helping us understand how we can reset our mindsets to unlock Africa's potential, one mind at a time. Joining us on the line is Juliane Hoss. Good evening to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for choosing
Good evening.
to spend time with us, Juliane. Where you tuned in, and where are you going to be talking to us from?
I'm still at a friend's place in Cape Town. I went on my annual hike last week, 1 week without a cell phone, just in the nature.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And joining us in studio is Willem Gous. So thank you for coming in. You were shocking us, and I don't think Juliane is going to be shocked by what you're about to share. I want us to break the ice, because it definitely broke my ice in my brain.
Well, I was shocked when he said that AI is replacing therapists soon. But anyway, I'm over that.
Juliane, he comes in with another one.
For new breaking news.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So Mr. Willem comes in and tells us that, well, let me let you tell the story about walking on fire and snapping arrows. Listen, I don't think I did the story well.
Let me explain this. So, Juliane, nice meeting you as well, and good
Lovely
hiking.
meeting you.
So I'm a certified fire walking instructor. So I make a red hot fire of 600, 700 degrees centigrade, and I get you to take your shoes and your socks off, and I get you to calmly walk across the fire. And it is purely a mental exercise, because when you get to the other side, you're not burnt. Your feet look like they were when you started. Now, a lot of people ask me, why do we do this? What's the reason? Is it a Western thing? Is it an Asian thing? It's a mind thing. Everybody does it. We have quite a few instructors right through Africa in many African countries. Now, if I had to ask you, Shayla, does fire burn? What are you going to say?
Absolutely.
Amen. Preach. It's going to burn.
Yeah.
Now I get you to walk across that fire and nothing happened to your feet.
Yeah.
Is it still true?
Juliane, come help me. Come help me. Don't leave the chat yet.
And here's the thing there, is it helps you to start questioning things. Because as we believe fire burns, as we hold that belief, we hold on to the belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not tall enough, short enough, fat enough, thin enough. You know the enoughs. We have all of those. And Juliane, I think you deal with a lot with those in your practice. And it's just a way to unlock and get people to start questioning what they held as a firmly held belief, as a truth in their life. And things tend to start unraveling afterwards.
Juliane, do you also make people walk on fire? I just need to clarify if this is the chat that we are having right now.
No, I have never done that. But it is fascinating. I think there's a point where even fire gets so hot that it will actually burn us. But there's also, I believe, there are those underlying beliefs that we have that are holding us back, and we often call them the underlying stressors, which is quite interesting because a lot of the actual material impact on our health, in how it weighs us down and how it makes us sick, are the worries we have, are precisely those self-doubts that you spoke to, Willem. And we can show that in psychology, we can show that in medicine, that if we weigh ourselves down with our thoughts, and often even unconscious, because we've learned them from way back in our childhood, we can measure that in the lab with the tools that we have in psychology and medicine. So I definitely also believe that how we speak to ourselves, what we believe ourselves, has a material impact whether we get hurt or not.
That's really interesting, Julian. I'm going to stick with you for a moment. What Willem said about belief systems kind of shakes the ground on what we deem valid and true, right? If we're saying this thing that we have known to burn us before, that has burnt us before, can unburn us, for the lack of a better word, then how we think essentially governs what we experience, right? And so for the
Yeah.
very many that you have worked with, how do we reset fundamentals? Because me understanding that fire is hot is not because I woke up one day and I'm like, ooh, fire is hot. I got burnt before, or somebody exposed me to a fire and that made me fear. And so in the place of understanding the fire is hot came the feeling of fear to avoid fire. How do we reset that?
So there's different ways that you can do it. So one approach that I really like is to write down, what have you learned? What have you learned as a child? What have you seen people around you believing or teaching you? And then how would you want to rewrite that for yourself or for the next generation? So it can be as explicit as that, but also just questioning our beliefs. I always call it the layers that you have to filter everything that you're telling yourself through. And the first layer is always, is that true? Can we be sure that this is true? And if we can really be sure, is it about me? Can I take it personal? Or is it actually unrelated so I can distance myself? And if I think, yes, it's true and it is about me, is there something I can do about it? Or am I stressing myself for no obvious reason? And sometimes it can also be helpful to say, what is the price that I want to pay? Because often in our attempt to create a safe environment, we've forgotten that instead of making our lives as safe as necessary, we're now making them as safe as possible. And we're distancing ourselves from everything that could potentially fill our lives with whatever we want to do, with aspirations or with joy or with goals or with vision. So just let me give you a simple example. Oftentimes, when I speak to parents and how they raise their kids, what comes out is that they're just trying to avoid harm. They're just trying to avoid any danger or risk on their child's life. And if I say to them, yeah, cool, you're raising your child like a ship in the harbor and it's safe there, but would you build a ship for that? It only occurs to them that, wow, we're only solving for safety because fear has become the dominant theme in our lives. And changing that and asking again, but what would you do if you feel safe enough, can be a very powerful approach.
I love that. Willem, I'm going to turn to you. Something that's really interesting that you questioned at the end of your explanation and just walking us through what you do with firewalking is perceived lens. You know, you brought to the fort our perceived lens, and just off the back of what Juliane was saying in terms of transformation and you looking at your understanding, I want to get into the entrepreneurial state of thinking in terms of tangibly reworking the way you think about things. And I'm going to put forth to you the very same example. Fire at age 6 was taught to me as hot because I have a scar that reminds me I got burnt. At age very young and beautiful, you want me to now walk across this firebed, and this is the memory I have. How do we begin to have conversation with self through the lens of entrepreneurial thinking that will change this reality?
It's a very good question, and thank you for asking that. It's about starting to do things differently. And you always have to ask yourself, what do I need to start doing, stop doing, or change in what I'm doing? And we always think on a physical layer, but we have to think on a cognitive layer and an emotional layer. So you have an emotional layer that you need to deal with it as well. But then you can, as she said, look at the exercise you can do. That's when you start working on the cognitive layer. Because what we look at and what we see is not the same thing. I always tell people, if I had a group of 20 people and I put a policeman in front of them, some will feel safe, some will feel unsafe, some will feel anger, some will feel nothing. What is he doing? Nothing. They projecting that onto him. So it's about that metacognition, becoming aware of your own thoughts and the lenses that you hold around things, that you can then start questioning and say, oh, What am I not seeing? How might I look at this from a different angle? What have I not entertained? Because if you have an emotional block, usually we try to block alternative views. You're like, no, I don't hear that. But now you have to make the decision on a cognitive level to override the emotional side and said, let's just hear it. Let's just take a look at it and take small steps. And that's where the entrepreneurial thinking comes in from the flow forward as to what's the next smallest step that you can take now? And what are the resources that you have? Whom can you call? What can how might I move forward with it?
Juliane, I want to bring you into the emotional aspect of this particular conversation. Often we know what we want to do. However, there's an emotion affiliated with this action that we want to practice that stops us, right? There's a tangible feeling, like I get sad when I think of walking on hot coals. It just brings me sadness. And this isn't necessarily something that I learned in my later years. It's something I learned as a child. That was the feeling I perhaps carried. And so I want to talk about how to have a conversation with self about the feeling. Because I think more often than not, the reason why we fail, and I'm saying this because I've seen very many challenges on social media, 75 hard, 30-day challenge, do this, and day 1, 2, 3, you're excited before you stop. And it's not that you're not willing. It's almost like there's this layer of feeling that we don't interact with that stops us from progressing forward. Let's have that conversation with self.
For me, I still love the conversations with ourselves in the moments when these beliefs burnt into our skin nearly. So there's a beautiful approach that I use when we think back and we ask ourselves, okay, when did you learn that? For example, I worked with a client the other day, and the client always belittled themselves a little bit. And there was a moment in her childhood when literally she walked into the house and made sure no one notices her. And then you can, in just a guided meditation, go back to that moment and say, I'm speaking to my younger self and I'm saying, come out of that feeling. And you can remind yourself of that. So that is a beautiful approach that I often use. Also, sometimes connecting with the emotion to really feel through it, because what gives the emotions power over us is that we also think we need to avoid them. Because if we try to escape our emotions, that's how the fear grows. And in psychology and also in trauma theory, we call it the fear of the fear. So that you actually become so scared that the fear will come up again that you don't even engage with that emotion. So just being able to hold the fear and grow beyond it is also very powerful. And I also use a way of really listening to your body where you feel the emotion and breathing in and staying calm until the emotion subsides. So it's really learning to understand what is going on in your body and really becoming a supporter to yourself. And I mentioned I was hiking last week, and we actually we had a shortage of water because it was super dry. And I noticed how I was suddenly feeling a little bit of panic in my body, and I didn't want to feel it. And next thing, I was panicking about everything in my life, about my loved ones, about the future, about everything. So it was the feeling inside my body that I had ignored that then took over other parts of my life. Had I just sat with it and had I said, okay, this is an emotion that I'm having. I'm supporting myself and I'm saying, I will try my best to get through this hike, but there's always a way for me to descend and stop the hike. I would have been able to calm down. So just actually looking at the emotion, being able to feel through it is also a very powerful approach.
It is 35 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. The voice there of Juliane Hoss, who is a therapist, part of our 4-part series alongside Willem Gous, who is an entrepreneurial thinking expert. If you have your questions, you're more than welcome to send them through. Find us on WhatsApp +27 634069126, or comment on the live feed currently on YouTube. Head over to Channel Africa and you should see the pink or the red highlight, depending on how you see color. And then just click on the profile picture and voila, done and dusted. You are part of the live feed. And I see that Nelly Siwe Caesar came through and shared their comment. Thank you so much for choosing us over the rest. We take a quick breather. When we get back, we continue this very last installment of Rewiring Your Mind for Success.